some announcements I've seen recently, obviously on the Instagram and Twitter pages. Gavin Gwynn fighting for the European title. I'd seen Eddie Hearn previously said he was looking at potentially the Gary Cully fight if the European title didn't come through. Gavin's obviously signed with Queensberry now. Would the Gary Cully fight still be an option if he wins?
Possibly. Obviously, we don't know. Obviously, we accepted terms for that fight. Gary's team wouldn't obviously have another route for him, which is fair enough. Obviously, Gary and his team are very good friends of mine, so obviously I know Gary will fight anyone. So obviously I know I would never ever say he's ducking Gavin, which he's not. I think it'd be a great fight down the line, but obviously his team are just looking at a different route, and hopefully, yeah, there's no reason why it can't happen. It's a great fight for the European title. God willing that Gavin wins. We're more than happy for that fight.
Then we've seen Harry Scarf announced for Echo Esserman. Huge domestic dust up that one. How did sort of that one come about?
Mandatory. So Harry's been a mandatory challenger. Obviously Echo's had the IBF eliminator, but obviously Cody Crowley's not took that. So obviously that's what we're going to do. The British and Commonwealth title, November 18th on a cracking Queensberry card. Can't, like the cards that have been going on lately, they've not been great, to be honest. But see that Queensberry card, that's a cracker. I'm looking forward to seeing that and being there.
And that's one thing I did want to touch on. Obviously, they're saying the Magnificent Seven is back.
Yeah.
For yourself, and obviously, sort of like obviously where you've been promoting previously, and from a management perspective, how good is it to see that we've got a card that's literally stacked for once?
Yeah, listen, there's always good cards on, but sometimes you don't see a card stacked like that. Which fair play to Queensberry and TNT. They've come out fighting since the changeover. Obviously, you see with the Usyk and the Fury being signed and stuff like that. So yeah, no, listen. Obviously, there is, Eddie always does a good show with some good fights and that. But this one is stacked from top to bottom with 7 title fights. So looking forward to being there as a fan as well as obviously watching Harry win the British and Commonwealth titles.
I've seen Ohara Davies obviously got the Golden Boy deal, and then I've seen where the Rolly Romero situation. Has there been any update on that, or will it be looking at likely a different opponent for Ohara?
Yeah, so Ohara Davies will be fighting in early December for the interim WBA world title against Ismael Barroso, and then Rolly Romero has to fight him by end of March. If he don't fight him by end of March, then hopefully the WBA will strip him, and if Ohara beats Barroso, which is no easy fight. But if he beats Barroso, then we'll be made full world champion. But Ohara wants that Rolly Romero fight. Obviously, there's talk. We had talks of the Ryan Garcia fight. Ryan Garcia had 2 options on the table, one being Ohara and one being obviously Oscar Durate, which it looks like Oscar Durate got the fight. So listen, obviously we'd rather that fight when we're world champion anyway. So I'm happy with that decision. It'll be good to be for Ohara to get out to America and show people what he's about.
And then Dina Thorsland, that was, like you say, arguably probably your best night within the sport. What's next for her? Is it unification?
Yeah, that was the best night. Obviously, that was my first ever unified world champion. Unbelievable night. Yes, she has a mandatory. Talking to the mandatory at the minute. The unification is Nina Hughes, who's with me, obviously, and Ebony Bridges. Ebony Bridges is looking like she's having a voluntary. And then Nina has a mandatory as well. So I believe next year that we could hopefully get undisputed. Obviously, we'd love to see Nina versus Ebony, and then the winner fights Dina. But let's see how it plans out. But Dina's ready to fight anyone, and so is Nina.
And obviously, outside of your fighters, we've seen Conor Ben make his return, and it looks like Eddie Hearn's all but confirmed that he will be fighting sort of Chris Eubank around December time or in the start of next year. Obviously, as from like a managerial perspective, what's your thoughts on the fact, obviously, he's not sort of allowed to fight within the UK, but he can fight abroad?
Listen, I'm not going to get into politics like that. Obviously, listen, I've always, me and Conor are friends. I don't believe that he failed the drug test. I don't believe that intentionally he's been done. I don't know the ins and outs, but obviously with Conor, he wouldn't go spend all that money that he spent to prove his innocence if he wasn't innocent. But listen, it is what it is. A great fight. I hope it does happen. if it happens in the UK or it happens in Abu Dhabi. Listen, it'd be a great fight. That's the main thing.
Lee, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Been a pleasure.
Thank you.